So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome and welcome back here about BSN Network. Who back here, BSN Network. This is BSN Network podcast here today. It is Wednesday, August 11th. Hopefully everybody's having a day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Wednesday, August 11th here today, coming off of another night in baseball. Another Yankees loss last night. Obviously, they got the job done on Monday, but they could not get the job done yesterday as they fall to the Kansas City Royals 8-4. The New York Mets were down 3-1. I believe it was like the bottom of the second, and they ended up getting that game suspended due to weather, so they will resume that game later on today. Obviously, they both play today again. Yankees will play day game today, final game of the three-game set in Kansas City before they head on over to the Field of Dreams game, which will take place tomorrow in Iowa, and then they'll finish up that Chicago series Saturday and Sunday back in Chicago. You know, the Yankees took a tough loss last night, and, you know, it's tough to win a game when you're making 4 errors. It wasn't even so much the bats last night. I mean, the Yankees put up the hits. They got the chances. They got 4 runs. I mean, DJ had a big hit. He had a RBI single, and, I mean, they were putting together good at-bats. It wasn't so much the hitting last night for the Yankees as much as it was the errors. I mean, Higgy making 2 really bad errors that costed us 2 runs. The really, really bad error was the run he threw to third base against Whit Merrifield, who leads the league in stolen bases this season. Is a very fast player and uses his speed to his advantage. It's kind of it doesn't make much sense to throw the ball down there. And, it just doesn't make complete sense. It was kind of like a forcing it, and then, Odor wasn't able to come up with the catch, which I don't blame Odor. The ball was way out of hand. I mean, Odor got a glove on it, but it wasn't enough. And then it goes into the outfield, and it scores a run, and then, you have the Steven Riding's error, the pitcher that came in for the Yankees. He makes a throwing error, terrible throw. LeMahieu went on over and covered at first. It was a terrible throw there. LeMahieu couldn't do anything about that. It was just an awful throw. And, you make that error, then Voit makes an error. So 4 errors total for the New York Yankees last night. You're not going to win you a game. It's a tough way to win. They kept on giving the Royals second chances, and they got to find a way to clean those up, as they got to bounce back today and try to get the win. And the Yankees this season, let's be honest, I mean, they've not had many errors this season. I mean, the Yankees obviously have had a couple games where they made some bad errors, not as bad as the Mets. I mean, the Mets have had stretches of games where they'll make 2-3 errors a game. And we've seen that a couple times this season, where in a week the Mets might have 2 or 3 games where they make 3 errors. And the Mets this season, fielding has been a big issue, which is why they not only went out and got Javier Baez to bring another bat in the lineup, but because they needed some fielding. Mets this season have had many errors in the field. But the Yankees haven't been that bad. Last night was just a terrible night for them. And, you're not going to be able to get the win. And it's frustrating because I think you have to expect the Yankees to sweep the Royals. But, I mean, if you're going to look at it this way, you can go ahead and say, hey, the Yankees, earlier in the year, we won 2 out of 3 against the Royals. So, again, we might win 2 out of 3 against the Royals. So, it's kind of one of those things where, we didn't sweep them, but we still have a chance to win the series, and you go for the 2 out of 3 today. So, Yankees lost yesterday. They play today at 2:15 Eastern against the Royals again. Third game of the 3-game set. Yankees go for the series win, the rubber game today. Mets will resume last night's game today, and I believe they'll also play today's game. So I think today's game is going to be 7 innings, and they're going to resume last night's game, I believe. Mets were down 3-1, so they'll start up, I believe, bottom of the second, 3-1. I think there was a runner on first, if I remember correctly. I was looking at the scores and stuff. Phillies last night, they also got delayed, but they ended up playing later. That game resumed much later. Phillies weren't able to get the job done. They got shut down. I mean, not many hits. They struck out a ton. They had 15 strikeouts last night, so the Phillies got shut down last night. I'm going to get to the Bryce Harper and the Phillies in a second here, but definitely Mets, Phillies both got impacted by the rain, but the Mets got suspended. Phillies were able to get the game in. So Yankees and Mets today. Other than that, there's more NBA Summer League pretty crazy I'm saying it, but there's a couple NFL games on this week. You got a Thursday game, preseason game. You got, I believe, some Friday games. Jets, Giants on Saturday. So crazy I'm saying it, but football, there's some preseason games on. Not that means anything, but it still is football. So let's get to the topics for today's podcast. Another big podcast in store here. We're going to start off with Bryce Harper and the Phillies. I wanted to talk about Bryce Harper and his recent success at the plate. This has been a guy who obviously first year with the Phillies had a pretty solid year. You know, he wasn't anything crazy, batted .260. And in last season, wasn't anything special either, but he batted .268. And now, finally this season, he is finally breaking out. And he has had an amazing stretch here, along with the Philadelphia Phillies themselves. Philadelphia Phillies obviously having an amazing stretch. Their 8-game win streak got snapped last night. But they've had an amazing stretch, obviously taking over first place in the NL East. And Bryce Harper has not been a big part, but he's been a massive part of why the Philadelphia Phillies are on a roll right now. Yes, they took the loss last night, but they're still won 8 of their last 9, and they're still first in the NL East. And let's be honest, if the Mets keep losing, the Phillies are only going to gain ground. So he's been a big part of it. All of a sudden now his NL MVP odds have been skyrocketing. I wanted to get into that. If he could be in the NL MVP conversation, talk about his success along a little bit with the Phillies' success as well. So I wanted to get into him. Then our second topic is going to be Jamal Adams and the Seahawks. Seahawks and Jamal Adams are working on a contract, and we actually just got word a little bit ago that Seahawks have formally offered Jamal Adams a contract extension. It's a matter of time whether or not Jamal Adams will accept or decline that extension, and we'll see. I want to get into that. Kind of talk about the entire Jamal Adams situation, because this has been something that's been pretty crazy the past couple weeks here. I believe he hasn't been at training camp yet, waiting for an extension. I mean, let's be honest here. The Seahawks knew what they were getting themselves into when they traded for Jamal Adams. And as much as I really like Jamal Adams, and I still root for him even though he's on the Seahawks, and I still believe he's one of the better safeties in the NFL, and I'll tell you why in the second topic. We all knew this was going to happen. I mean, that's the reason the Jets traded him, because he wanted the money and the Jets weren't willing to give him. And now we all realize that, now we're all noticing that, hey, even though he's on the Seahawks, he still wants the money. So, going to talk about it. Going to get into why the Seahawks should do something sooner rather than later, because you got to get him in the camp, you got to get him practicing. And the Seahawks have 2 actually contracts that they need to get going before the season starts. Delon Brown, their left tackle, and Jamal Adams, obviously their starting safety. So we'll get into those. Then we'll finish off the podcast with a New York sports update. As always, like every day, finish it off with the New York sports update. Like I mentioned earlier, Yankees and Mets on today. Mets, I believe, it's like a doubleheader. No surprise. I mean, the Mets have played like 20,000 doubleheaders this season. It's been pretty crazy. I mean, it seems that way. It seems like every single day they're making a play in a doubleheader. And that's been the story of the season for the Mets. I mean, they had a lot of doubleheaders early in the year. It actually was bad in April and May. I mean, you start off the season where your first series gets canceled. Then you have all these rainouts. Like in the first week of the season, they might have only played like 3 games. They played against the Rockies, I remember, and the game got snowed out. So the Mets have had a wild season, and they've had a wild season of ups and downs where they look like a really good team, and now they look like a team that's sinking. And now they get another game that gets delayed, and yet again today they got to finish off a game and play another game. So just another bump in the road for the New York Mets. We'll see if they can be able to bounce back. And like I said, Yankees rubber game with a 3-game set today. It's a big game for the Yankees. It is. You cannot go into Kansas City and lose 2 out of 3. Especially the way you won Monday night with the crazy game that was in 11 innings. You come out last night, you're playing good, and then you let up all these errors, and you're winning 4-3, and then you let the Royals score 5 unanswered. And, you have a tough series coming up too, with Chicago. And that's not easy. Chicago is not an easy team to beat. You can make the argument Chicago's one of the World Series favorites coming out of the AL. I think you can make the argument for a lot of teams, but Chicago's got to be up there. They got a really good pitching staff, and they got a really good bullpen, and they've got a good lineup. And Eloy Jimenez is getting hot at the right time. He had a 2-run home run against the Cubs. He had 2 home runs against the Cubs on Sunday night. Then he had 2 home runs the other day against the Twins. So guy who's getting hot at the right time as well. White Sox are not an easy team to beat. Yankees is a big game today for them. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So obviously we all know the Philadelphia Phillies are on a roll right now. Even though they did not get the win last night, they are still on a roll. Obviously, over the weekend, they swept the New York Mets like I talked about a couple days ago. Coming out of the weekend, I talked about it on Monday, them sweeping the Mets, and the Phillies playing really good baseball right now. Right now, as we sit here today, Phillies are 59-54. They are one game up in the NL East, so it's not anything crazy by any means. Obviously, up in the NL East, they are total. They've won a one game losing streak. Obviously, they lost yesterday, and they're 5-2 in their last 10 games. So we all know that. The NL East has been a struggling division this season. You've had many different teams. I think 3 or 4. I believe every team's. I don't know. There's some crazy stat about all the teams that are. All the teams. There's been a couple teams that have been in first place, and it's not. And it's really It's really the NFC East of the MLB. That's what the NL East has been this entire year. It's been the NFC East of the MLB. We all remember the NFC East last season, and really the past couple seasons in the NFL. You have the Giants, Washington, Dallas, and Eagles. They've all struggled. They were all really bad. The division winner last season, not to take anything away from Washington, but they were 7-9. The Giants came in second place at 6-10. So NFC East was really weak. And we all knew that the NFC East was only going to produce one playoff, and that was going to be the division winner. Same thing this year with the NL East. It's going to produce one playoff team, and that's going to be the division winner. Now, let's be fair here. The National League, all the divisions except the NL West are going to produce one playoff team. Okay? Because as we stand right now, the NL West is the Giants, Dodgers, and Padres. And 2 of the 3 teams in the NL West are going to have to get a wild card, and that's all. That's all. Those are all the wild cards. 2 wild card spots. So if you want to win it all, you're gonna win it all rather. But if you want to win your division, or if you want to get to the playoffs and you want to get to a wild card game, you got to win your division. And we all know that in the National League. The same thing with the NL East, same thing with the NL Central, NL West. You got 3 of the arguably the best teams in the league in the NL West. But the NL East, you're going to have to win your division, especially in the NL East. Because the Reds in the NL Central have a chance. They're like 2 back, I believe, now, a wild card. They have a chance of getting a wild card. But the Mets, the Braves, they have no chance. And the Phillies, if they don't win the division either, they're not going to get in. Okay? And the Phillies right now are getting hot at the right time. And I understand they lost last night 5-0. But let's be honest here. Let's be real here. Do we really expect the Phillies to take 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers? Arguably the best team in baseball? I don't really think so. As much as the Phillies are hot and they're rolling right now, and they're 8-2 in their last 10, and they are, playing much better baseball. This was a team before the trade deadline. We were talking about them making changes at, coaching and stuff like that. And now they're a team right now that's completely turned their season around. But, if you look at the Phillies right now, and yes, they play the Dodgers tonight and tomorrow, they actually have a relatively easier schedule coming up. Now, they do got to play the Reds for 3, which isn't going to be easy. They have to play the Reds for 3, which isn't going to be easy because the Reds are a good team. Then you get into a stretch of the schedule where you have some winnable games. You play 3 against the Diamondbacks. Now, you do have to play 3 against you have to play 3 against San Diego. Then you get 2 against Rays. Rays are beatable. The Rays are a really good team right now. They're hot, but they're beatable. The Yankees beat them, and the Yankees have been great this season. They're a beatable team. Then you have more against the Diamondbacks. Then you get into the Nationals, and then you get into your September games. Phillies are getting hot at the right time. Now, last night they did lose, obviously 5-0, but they are getting hot at the right time. And they realize that they need to step up to the plate, and they need to play well, because if they're not playing well, they're not going to win a division, and they're not going to make a playoff spot. Because right now, the Phillies are only 5 games above 500. In many other divisions, that would be 3rd, 4th place. So Phillies realize that they've needed to step up and that they need to get going. And now all of a sudden we're talking about them being a first-place team in the NL East and making a very strong playoff push. And a big part of that it's been overall the lineup, but a huge part of it's been Bryce Harper's recent success here in the past couple weeks. Bryce Harper being a big Phillies off-season acquisition back in the 2019 off-season. I don't think it's fair to say that Bryce Harper, I don't know if it's fair to say Bryce Harper hasn't been good as a Philly, but I don't think that's fair to say, because it's not that he hasn't been good. He hasn't been what he was with the Nationals his first 2 years. You also got to realize, though, first year with the Phillies wasn't a great season. He batted .260. But, throughout his career, too, he's a .277 career hitter. So it's not like he's a .310 hitter in his career and he hits for average. He's a guy that's going to hit home runs. He's actually a very clutch hitter. We saw that with Washington. We've seen it here with Philadelphia. We've seen it even recently here with Philly, where he's been a very clutch hitter. But his first 2 seasons with Philly were a little underwhelming. .260, then .268 batting average. Now, his power numbers really weren't as underwhelming, because in 2019, he had 35 home runs, and last season he had 13 in the shortened 60-game season where he only played 58 games. He missed 2. And then, obviously, this year, 92 games played, his numbers have been way up. He's got a .299 batting average, and his on-base percentage, which he's always been very good at getting on base, is .411 this season. And that's been one thing that has not slowed down for Bryce Harper. Since he's gotten to the Nationals, or the Phillies rather, he's been really good at getting on base. We saw that in 2019, where he would have .372 on base percentage. We saw that in 2020, where he had .420 on base percentage. And once again this year, .411 on base percentage. He has a career .389 on base percentage. A guy who will get on base. He's going to get hits. He's going to hit home runs. He is going to strike out sometimes, but he's going to be a big-time hitter. And he's been stepping up at exactly the right time. And obviously when we had the All-Star game a couple of weeks ago, or about a month ago now, might actually be just a month about. But either way, when we had the All-Star game, I was about a month ago. And I remember, you're seeing all the ballots and you're seeing all the, who made it and who didn't. I was really surprised to see that Bryce Harper was not an All-Star. This is a guy who is putting up numbers to be an All-Star. .299 batting average, that's 14th in the MLB. He's got 20 home runs, which is not nearly as high as some of the guys in the MLB, but that's okay, because he's getting on base. He's getting a lot more singles, doubles now. He's scoring, right? He's using his ability. He's really using his ability to be a contact hitter. Like, for his first 2 years in Philly, he was more of a power type guy. And now he's turning into a little bit more of a contact guy. Getting on base, getting big hits, second and third, 1 out, getting that big hit to drive in those 2 runs. And he's got 45 RBIs, which is not crazy, because I believe there was a crazy stat. Like, his first 16 or 15 home runs of the season were all solo home runs. So it's not like he's hit 3-run home runs and 2-run home runs and all that stuff. He hits a lot of solo home runs. And his OPS this season is 5th in the MLB in .976. And a lot of people are talking about all of a sudden now, not just because the Phillies are making a run and now they're a lot of people across the league are starting to talk about them, but Bryce Harper, and I completely agree with the people who are saying that Bryce Harper has got to be at least considered for the National League MVP, because he is not only hitting this season, but he's really hitting at the right time. When you get into the August months and September, and then obviously if you get to October, you need big bats in the lineup. Bryce Harper has been good all year. How did he not make the All-Star game? That's besides me. I have no clue. He's an All-Star. He should be an All-Star. But he's getting hot at the right time, and so are the Philadelphia Phillies. And 100% he should be considered for the National League MVP. Now, am I saying that he should win it? No, I've not said that. There's a lot of other really good players in the National League that you could say could win the MVP. I think you got to consider Tatis, even though Tatis has been on and off the field this season with injuries. When he's out there, he's a difference maker when he's out there. If Acuna doesn't get injured, you always have to put in Acuna into the equation. Soto, you always have to consider, right? Even if even if the Nationals aren't a good team, which they aren't, they obviously sold at the deadline, you always have to consider Soto as a National League MVP. You look at teams like the Padres, like I said, Tatis. Dodgers, you could look at so many different players for the Dodgers. MVP, not saying Mookie Betts should be, but Mookie Betts has been raking recently. Ever since coming out of the All-Star break, he's been a difference maker. You can look at the Reds. They've got, there's a lot of really good players in the National League. But I think Bryce Harper has got to be considered in the National League MVP. And he's, I got the highest on base percentage on the team. And this season he's played 92 games, which is, he has been on the IL a little bit, but he's been able to stay out there. This is by far the best season for Bryce Harper. And I've always liked Bryce Harper. I've always thought he was a really good player. I always feel like he's gotten a little bit of a bad rap for the way it ended in Washington. With the whole, he won the home run derby that year, and all the National fans wanted him to stay and all that, and he's with the Nationals since the day he got drafted. And I feel like he gets a bad rap for the reason why he left the Nationals. Like, he just left, like, that was the year he won the Derby and all that stuff, and, doing this and this and this, and there's so much different stuff there. And then, to leave and never, bring a World Series there. Obviously, they'd end up bringing a World Series the year he leaves, which is kind of funny. I feel like a lot of people kind of give him a bad rap for the way it ended in Washington. But, it ended, right? A lot of National fans wanted him to stay. He didn't stay. He went to Philadelphia, and that's kind of how it is. And National fans to this day, in a way, are a little bit jealous because they wanted him on that team, and they wanted him to stay there, and they wanted him to win a World Series, and he left, and they all kind of hate him for it. But, for a guy that I feel like he gets a bad rap for the way it ended in Washington. Like, he didn't say anything. He wasn't like a Kyrie Irving with the Boston Celtics and said, "Oh, I'm going to stay here." He never said any of that. We all knew he was going to we all knew going into that offseason that he was going to get a lot of big deals from a lot of different teams. He chose the Phillies, and he went from there. I mean, you can't expect him to play his whole career with one team. And like I said, since he's joined the Phillies, has he been a little underwhelming? Yes, but he's had a lot of big hits. I mean, I remember the first year when he was with the Phillies, he had the one grand slam walk-off. They made like an insane comeback against the Cubs. He's had some big moments as a Philly. And this season is really showing why the Phillies went out and spent, I believe it was like $300 million on Bryce Harper. This is why. Because he hits in big moments. He gets big hits. He's going to hit home runs. He's going to get on base. And he's going to be good in the field as well. I mean, let's be real. The National League doesn't have a DH. So you can't, this is a guy that's playing the field every night he's playing. He's been really good. And I don't think many people have realized how good he's been. Just because I just don't really. But he has been really, really good. And I think, like I said earlier, you have got to consider him for National League MVP. Because he's getting hot at the right time, and they need him now to get hot, and he is. In .299 batting average, this is why the Philadelphia Phillies paid him. Right? Everyone always wants, that's always one big thing in sports. Like, when you pay a guy a big amount of money, it's not just for them to produce, consistently, but it's also to produce in big moments. Right? I mean, for example, Garrett Cole and the Yankees. Yankees gave him a massive contract. Yankees didn't give him that massive contract just to produce and be good. They gave him that, but it's also to be good in big moments. It's to be good in the playoffs. It's to, be good when maybe, look at that Astros game, right? He stays out there for that final batter, Yordan Alvarez, when he told Boone to go back to the dugout. We all realized that that's why the Yankees gave Garrett Cole all that money, was because they gave Garrett Cole that money was because of those moments. Needing him to step up and, make a big pitch when needed and win them that game. Same thing here with Bryce Harper. It's not just because he can produce consistently like he has this season. But it's because he's producing out a big part of the season. You're chasing a playoff spot. You're trying to secure the division. You're playing against some good teams. You need big at-bats. You need big hits. And Bryce Harper's delivering. And right now you look at the Phillies, like I mentioned earlier, 59-54. And they're 8-2 in their last 10. And it's going to be a tough series against the Dodgers. I mean, if you can at least find a way to sneak out one against the Dodgers, I think you'll be all right. I know that's not the goal, but you do have Kyle Gibson on the mound today, who's been very good, especially ever since he's also gone to the Dodgers, or not the Dodgers, rather, the Phillies. He was obviously with the Texas Rangers earlier. And you look at the Dodgers, they got David Price on the mound, and he's hittable. And we've all seen that throughout his career. And you go to tomorrow's, you got Julio Urias on the mound. He's not going to be easy, but you got to hope that, maybe get a couple hits, get to the bullpen early. And let's not deny it. Gene Segura has also been a very good player. Batting average at .314 this season, and leads the team in hits at 103. And leads the team overall in batting average. And Segura's too, a guy who's gone on the IL a little bit this season, but when healthy, went out there, he's playing well. And you assume too, if Segura doesn't miss 20 games, I mean, this is a guy who could lead the league in hits. He could, very well could. You look at Bryce Harper this season, 26, so 97 hits, 26 doubles, 20 home runs, 45 RBIs, 57 walks. He gets on base. Only 87 strikeouts, which actually isn't a ton compared to Alec Boehm and Rhys Hoskins. 12 stolen bases, so he is a threat on the bases. And like I said, .299 batting average, .411 on base percentage, .565 slugging, and a .702 OPS. And it's WAR's 3.4. So, very, very good season from Bryce Harper. And I am shocked. That he was not an all-star. I think he got robbed of an all-star. Like I said, I think a lot of fans out there just don't like Bryce Harper just because the way it ended in Washington. But that's the business. That's sports for you. You can't stay with one team your entire career. You can't. Bryce Harper needs to get the recognition he deserves because he's been dominant. And yes, if you ask me to name you 5, 6, 7 NL MVP candidates, Bryce Harper would be right up there as one of them. Simple as that. And you look at the Phillies schedule coming up here. Like I mentioned earlier, I talked about it a little bit. You go to even to September, you got a lot of easy games in September. You've got a lot of easy matchups. You have the Nationals one game there to finish off that 3-game set, which stretches from August into September. Then you have the Marlins. Brewers is going to be easy, but then you have the Rockies, you have the Cubs, you have the Mets. Mets is beatable. You have the Orioles, the Pirates, the Braves are beatable. And then you have the Marlins. The Phillies have a big advantage when it comes to trying to win a division. Because you look at the games down the stretch in September, Marlins, Brewers isn't going to be easy, but you got the Rockies, then the Cubs, then the Mets are beatable. We all saw them sweep them. The Orioles, the Pirates, the Braves, and then you end with the Marlins. Like, their September schedule is really easy. If they just take it game by game, this is actually Philadelphia's division to lose if you look at their schedule. Instead of looking at the Mets schedule and seeing the gauntlet that they have to go through, stretching from August into September. I'm going to say this. This is actually the Phillies division to lose. Look at their September schedule. It is crazy weak. It really is. You look at their September schedule, it is crazy, crazy weak. A lot of opportunities to go out and win those games. And I'll tell you what, I've said this a couple times here. The Phillies have the talent on their roster. Like they do. Rhys Hoskins, Alec Boehm, Segura, Real Muto. McCutchen hasn't been great, but he can get a hit here and there. Harper, you go to Gregorius, who he's not having a great season at the plate, but he does it with his glove. Brad Miller always seems to come in clutch. Torreyes is a good, good guy that, you throw out there. You look at, a good guy that can play many different positions. We remember him from the Yankees. And then you even go to the pitching. And the pitching's been good. you have Zach Wheeler, who's good, has had a really good season. He's got to be considered for Cy Young. He's got to be. Having a really good season. You go to Eflin, who's been on the IL, but when he's out there, he can give you some good some innings. Nola's struggled this season, but he's had moments where he looks like him old self. Wheeler leads the team this season in wins, ERA, strikeouts, and other than that, he doesn't lead him in saves or holds because those are the bullpen guys. But Wheeler and Nola have, had moments. Wheeler's had a really good season at 2.42 ERA. Nola's shown moments of being him old self, his old Cy Young self, but his old Cy Young contending self, but not too much. Eflin's had good moments this season, and then other than that, their pitching's not great. But their hitting's been able to cover it up, and their hitting's been able to go out there and produce a lot of runs. So Bryce Harper's getting hot at the right time. Phillies are getting hot at the right time. Mets are getting cold at the wrong time, which is great to see the Mets lose. And I'll tell you what, you go on and look at the Phillies, like I just read, you look at the Phillies September schedule with the Marlins and the Cubs and the Orioles and the Pirates and the Mets and the Braves, who are right behind them, but they're beatable. The Braves are nothing special. Just a couple days ago, they got over the 500 mark for the first time this season. They had a crazy record where they had 18 consecutive games. 18 games in a row where they did not have consecutive wins or losses. So they won, lost. They won, lost for 18 straight games. They did not have one game or two games where they won one, or won two in a row, or lost two in a row. They won and lost. That's been the story for the Braves this season. They haven't been able to build consistency, the Braves. They win and then they lose. Win, lose, win, lose. They haven't been able to get on consistent win streaks. They also haven't, let's be fair here, they also haven't been on consistent losing streaks because they haven't sunk to the bottom. They've been competitive through this whole season, through injuries, through losing your best player in Ronald Acuna. But hey, this is Philly's division to lose. It really is. It is. Look at the September schedule. Very easy schedule. And if you even want to go into, what if this comes down to the final series of the season, final 3 games? Well, Philly's got the Marlins the final 3 games of the season. So if you even want to go there, the Phillies have got the Marlins. So that right there should tell you that, hey, if it does come down to the final 3 games of the season, well, the Phillies got the Marlins. And the Marlins are one of the worst teams in the MLB. They are 12.5 back, and they are 47-67 on the season. Let's say it comes down to the final 9 games of the season. Well, they got, in the final 9, they got the Orioles, and then they got the Pirates, and then they got the Braves, and then they got the Marlins. So, Phillies have the upper hand. It's their division to lose, and Bryce Harper's getting hot at the right time. Everything that could go right, and I understand they lost last night, but everything that could be going right for the Phillies is going right. The Mets are starting to slide. Bryce Harper's getting hot. Gene Segura's been good all season. He had a 3-hit game yesterday as well. Phillies continue to, just win and win and win. And I know they lost yesterday, and I've said that about a billion times, and it is the Dodgers. And I'm not saying the Phillies are a better team than the Dodgers. It's going to be tough to beat them. But a lot of these other series coming up, and you got the Diamondbacks for 3 after the Reds. Very winnable series. So, right now, and you go back to the Bryce Harper thing, Bryce Harper playing really, really good baseball. And he's definitely, NL MVP has got to be in the equation here. It's got to be in the equation because, what he's doing, especially in the biggest moment of the season, is really crazy. And you look at the numbers, batting .299, 20 home runs, 40-something RBIs, an OPS that's top 5 in the MLB. Now, sure, there's a lot of good talent in the National League, like I said, but Harper's one of those highly talented players. So, that's what I got for the Bryce Harper and the Philadelphia Phillies update. They will play again today against the Philly, or the Dodgers, rather. Then they'll play the 3rd game of their series tomorrow against the Dodgers. All right, so coming up next here, I wanted to get into the Jamal Adams contract situation. Obviously, we all know Jamal Adams, former New York Jets safety, Had a really good 3 years with the team. Got traded to the Seahawks last offseason. Had a very good year last season. And now he wants an extension. And we are hearing that the Seahawks have given a deal, have offered a deal to Jamal Adams. It's just now the decision is waiting. We are waiting on a decision for Jamal Adams, if or not he's going to accept this deal. We'll get to that coming up next. All right, so Seahawks rumors, latest on Jamal Adams, DeJuan Brown contract extension negotiations. So, yes, DeJuan Brown also in the negotiations, the left tackle for the Seahawks. Actually, Russell Wilson, the other day, I believe it was yesterday, or maybe it was the other day, I'm not sure. He said that they need DeJuan Brown, on the team. He's been their really good left tackle. We all know the struggles that the Seahawks had last season at the offensive line position. Russell Wilson up there in the league and getting sacked. But I really want to get into the Jamal Adams contract extension. We'll get a little bit into DeJuan Brown and kind of that's the Seahawks stuff. But I really want to get into the Jamal Adams stuff because this Jamal Adams stuff, right? All right, let first off start off with this. When the Seahawks signed Jamal Adams, right, we all knew once the Seahawks signed Jamal Adams, this was going to become an issue. Right, the reason Jamal Adams wasn't happy with the New York Jets was because he wasn't getting the money. He wasn't getting paid. He wanted to get the money. He wanted an extension. So the New York Jets went out and traded him and got 2 first-round picks for it. And right now, one of those first-round picks we traded up in the draft to get Elijah Vera Tucker, offensive lineman out of USC. So this is no surprise by Seahawk fans that Jamal Adams wants an extension. All these a lot of people in the NFL thought this, that once Jamal Adams got traded from the Jets to the Seahawks, this whole contract extension stuff is just going to end. No, it's not. The whole reason Jamal Adams wanted out of the Jets because they weren't giving him an extension. And then he went to the Seahawks. It's only fair for a player to go there, play 1 year, show that he's capable in the defense, and now he wants an extension. And now it's getting to the point where we're sitting here August 11th, and there's still no deal done. Now they've offered him a deal, and we'll see if Jamal Adams accepts it or not. It's just a matter of time at this point. But the Seahawks, when they went out and got Jamal Adams, they knew what was on. They knew what they were getting. Now, yes, you're getting a very talented football player, a very talented safety, a guy that's going to blitz a lot, a guy that fits what the Seahawks do. Forever now, the Seahawks have been known for their defense, for their secondary with their linebackers, Bobby Wagner. They did have KJ Wright, and he's a free agent now. You go, all the way back to, Legion of Boom with Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor and Bobby Wagner, and that team was really good. Seahawks have always been known for their defense, and their offense been very good. Seahawks have always had a well-rounded team. And Adams coming in last season, having a good year. He fits their defense. He blitzes. He gets sacks. He causes pressure. He does a lot. And he showed that last year. So if you're going to ask, did he show enough to get an extension? Yes, he did. But the Seahawks knew they were getting themselves into this. Now, he is a very good safety, and he is a very good football player, but he does want an extension. Now, as a Jet fan, I know a lot of Jet fans, probably over 95% of the Jet fan base, maybe I'm the small 1%, don't like Jamal Adams anymore ever since he got traded and went to the Seahawks, and the return we got, which was really good, 2 first-round picks and some other picks, and, we got another first-round pick next season, and we got another offensive lineman this year with our first-round pick, and the trade's been working well for us. I still to this day, I really like Jamal Adams. I really think he's a really good player. I do still think he's one of the better safeties in the league. You look at how he can impact the game on and off the field, in the locker room, and his knowledge for the game, his passion for the game. He's got a lot of passion for the game. I will tell you this. I'm not saying that he has too much passion, but he's very passionate. You talk about you talk about hate losing more than you love winning. He's a pure example of a guy that just hates to lose and loves to win. And that's also part of the reason why they traded him. Because the Jets, obviously, when he was there, not a winning team, a losing team, not having many pivotal games. He wanted to play in big-time games, in big-time spots, national television with big-time teams, against big-time teams, and against big-name players. That's why Jets also traded him. Because he wanted out He wanted a fresh start. He wants an extension somewhere else. He wants to be on a contending team. His passion's there for the game. Pure example of a guy, like I just said, that hates losing more than he loves to win. That's kind of what you're getting in Jamal Adams. So I still really like Jamal Adams. I still hope that he does well with the Seahawks. I know, like I said, a lot of Jets fans don't like him. A lot of them kind of moved away from him. I mean, let's be honest. Jamal Adams was a gem that we got in the draft. And I actually did not like when the Jets first drafted Jamal Adams, because I wanted us to go out and get Watson that year because Jets needed a quarterback. We never went out and got Watson. We got Adams instead. I wanted the Jets to go out and get Watson instead. We got Adams. I originally didn't like the move, but after what he did with the New York Jets in 3 years, I really liked the move. And he was big for us. And he was still one of the better safeties in the league. And I get it that a lot of people are going to want to talk about his interceptions and his ability, not able to play in coverage and not able to guard guys one-on-one. Okay? Every player in every sport has a different play style. So you can't sit here and say, oh, well, he doesn't get any interceptions, or compare him. I've seen so many comparisons. Everybody does it, where they'll compare Jamal Adams' interception numbers to a defense lineman. Because Jamal Adams, he doesn't get interceptions. He doesn't. I believe he's only had a couple interceptions in his career, maybe like 1 or 2 interceptions in his career. He doesn't get many interceptions. But that's the way he plays. He's not a guy that goes out and goes for interceptions. He's a blitzing safety. He's more of like a linebacker type safety. That's what Jamal Adams does. That's his play style. So all these people that are saying, oh, Jamal Adams has the same amount of interceptions as Vince Wilfork, that's true, but that should not be how you judge Jamal Adams. Because he's not a guy that's going to go out and rack up the interceptions. He's a guy that's going to blitz. He's a guy that's going to tackle really well. He's going to force fumbles. He's going to lay a big hit. And he gets a lot of sacks. 9.5 sacks last season. Okay? He's a blitzing safety. And everyone can make fun of him all he wants. That's his play style. So many people out there say, oh, he doesn't have any interceptions. Well, he doesn't have any interceptions. That's not his game. Trying to compare Jamal Adams' interceptions to like another player interceptions is not fair, because that's not how he plays. That's almost like trying to compare Tom Brady's career rushing, or trying to compare Tom Brady's rushing yards last season to Lamar Jackson. It's not fair, because Tom Brady's not a rushing quarterback. Lamar Jackson is. So trying to compare, Jamal Adams' interceptions to another safety's interceptions is not fair, because Jamal Adams isn't an intercepting safety. He's not a coverage safety. But maybe someone else, maybe a Mika Fitzpatrick is. Now, it's not also, comparing, are we all going to sit here and, make fun of Mika Fitzpatrick's stats? Or his sacks, rather? No, that's not his game. He's not a guy that gets sacks. Jamal Adams, his game is getting sacks. So a lot of people just like to, always make fun of him for his interceptions and stuff. But trying to compare him to another player that has a lot of interceptions isn't fair, because Jamal Adams, his job's not to get interceptions. His job is more of like a safety linebacker type guy that blitzes, makes tackles for loss, is quick to the ball, gets pressure. That's his job. That's always like I said, it's almost like trying to compare Tom Brady's rushing yards last season to Lamar Jackson's. It's not fair, because Lamar Jackson's a rushing quarterback, Tom Brady's not. Or same thing here. Maybe player A is an interception type guy, Jamal Adams isn't. So comparing their interceptions isn't fair, because one guy blitzes a lot more and the other guy doesn't. So I definitely think that Jamal Adams deserves an extension, because I still believe he is one of the better safeties in the league. Too much nowadays do people get caught up in sacks and interceptions, and too much now people get caught up in interceptions. Everyone talks about Xavier Howard and how good he is because he got a lot of interceptions last season. I'm not saying Xavier Howard's not bad, but I don't know if he's the best cornerback in the NFL. Just because he had 10 interceptions last season, That doesn't mean he's the best cornerback in the NFL. How did he do against some of the top receivers? How did he do when there's a lot of, how did he do in certain times where he was on an island alone? How did he do in zone? Also, how did he do when the quarterback has a lot of time? Did he break down in coverage? Those are all questions. A lot of people get too caught up in sacks, interceptions, and myself included. Sometimes I can get too caught up in the sacks numbers. We all do it as fans. In baseball, everyone gets caught up in the home runs. In hockey, everyone gets caught up in the goals. They're not getting caught up in the assists and the points and the hits. In basketball, everyone's getting caught up in the points, right? Everyone is. Baseball, for a pitcher, it's all about ERA. Not about the strikeouts or the walk percentage or the Ks per nine. Same thing in football. For a quarterback, it's all about the touchdowns. It's not the completion percentage, the yards. It's the touchdowns. If he's not getting touchdowns, he's not good. And same thing with the defensive lineman. It's all about sacks. It's not the quarterback pressures, how fast you get to the quarterback, deflection passes, total tackles, tackles for loss. It's sacks. And in the secondary as well, it's all about interceptions. So a lot of people, just because Jamal Adams doesn't get interceptions, think he's not a good safety. He's a different type of safety. He's a blitzing type safety. He's a safety that's going to blitz and cause pressure. And he fits in the Seahawks defense very well. Because the Seahawks have been known for blitzing and having a solid secondary to slow them down. And he fits that Seahawks defense. So everybody, when you hear that Jamal Adams might be getting an extension, everyone might sit here and say, oh, that's the guy that gets no interceptions. Well, yeah, because that's not his game. Were you going to sit here and criticize Brady because he doesn't get rushing yards? That's not Brady's game. Same thing here with Jamal Adams. So I do think that Jamal Adams does deserve an extension. I do think he does. Now, I want to see what the extension is first. If it's going to make him the highest paid defensive player in the league, I don't know if I consider him the best defensive player in the league. I mean, I wouldn't. I think Aaron Donald's probably the best. I think you can make the argument Aaron Donald's one of the best football players in the entire league right now. What Aaron Donald does on a day in and day out basis is insane. So, would I consider him the best defensive player in the league? No. Would I consider him one of the best players in the league? No. So, is this contract going to make him the highest paid defensive player in the league? I don't know if I would agree with that. But sure, if it's an extension, if it's a good amount of money, I think it's perfectly fine. I think the Seahawks go out and spend some money and extend him. Because he fits your defense. He had a very good year last year. And all the people that are saying about his interceptions and this and that and all this, that's not his game. Simple as that. All right, and obviously, like I said, Delon Brown's contract, his extension, Russell Wilson talked the other day that he wants him on the team. He's been holding out here because he doesn't have he wants an extension. I mean, that's a deal I think the Seahawks have to make maybe even sooner than Adams, because Seahawks offensive line last year was terrible, and Russell Wilson got sacked a ton, and they missed a lot of big opportunities because Russell Wilson was getting sacked, and it seemed like every play Russell Wilson's back was on the ground. So it makes sense to re-sign Delon Brown, who, to him, age is just the number for him, and a guy who's actually playing consistently throughout his career. And for a guy that, for a guy that is 35 something, he's still a very good player. And he's one of those rare guys that you see in any sport. Because you see as guys get older, they start to decline. He's one of those guys in any sport that he's getting actually better at times as he ages. Some guys, it's what happens. They struggle, then they get better as they age, and they continue to get better and continue to get better. He's one of those guys. Like, it's almost like he's still, it's like a high level, even though he's still 30. Even though he's upper 30 years old. I believe he's 35 something, I think. But I agree with them going out and trying to sign him. And I will tell you this, if you're going to sign a guy first, it probably should be Delon Brown, because you need to get a deal done him soon, especially how bad the Seahawks offensive line was last season, and everything that went on in the offseason with Russell Wilson, and him, not being happy with the offensive line, and him not being happy with the situation there. I think that's also a deal that you got to get done as well. All right, so let's read this quick article here. Seahawks rumors, latest on Jamal Adams, Delon Brown contract extension negotiations. Two of the most important players for the Seattle Seahawks continue to sit out practice while seeking a new contract from the organization. Per ESPN's Brady Henderson, the Seahawks do have an offer on the table to Jamal Adams and are awaiting word on whether he will accept it. Henderson added the Seahawks are not currently talking with offensive tackle Delon Brown about a new deal at the moment. Like this stuff, and I've always said this, like this stuff, like the contract extensions, and the Bills said it with Josh Allen. Obviously, the Bills went out and extended Josh Allen, but this is the stuff that cannot leak into the offseason, or the regular season, rather. Because when you're focused on winning games, your focus should not be on a contract extension. So the Seahawks got to get something done sooner rather than later, because you can't go into the season with Delon Brown not being happy about his contract extension. That can't happen. When the season comes, it's time to focus on winning games, not getting contracts. Brown and Adams are entering the final season of their contracts in 2021. Seattle is in a tricky financial situation when it comes to trying to negotiate new deals with anyone on its roster. The team has a $5.8 million in cap space right now per spot track. Bob Condotta and Adam Jude of the Seattle Times reported Monday that Russell Wilson has told Seahawks management he would be willing to restructure his contract to help facilitate deals for Adams and Brown. Adams seems like the higher priority at this point, especially because the Seahawks traded 2 first-round picks to the New York Jets to acquire him in July 2020. He is set to earn $9.86 million this season, the final year of his rookie contract. Brown has a $10 million base salary in 2021. Condotta and Jude noted Adams and the Seahawks came close to an agreement that would have made the 25-year-old highest paid safety in the NFL, but the deal stalled over contract structure and guaranteed money. Denver Broncos safety Justin Simmons is the highest paid player at the position. He signed a 4-year $61 million deal with $35 million guaranteed in March. Brown has been with the Seahawks since being acquired in an October 2017 trade with the Houston Texans. The 4-time Pro Bowler was the 5th-ranked left tackle in the NFL last season by Pro Football Focus. Jamal Adams, he led the Seahawks with 9.5 sacks in 12 games last season. He also tied for the team lead with 14 quarterbacks hits and 11 tackles for loss. Brown has started all 53 games he has played in Seattle over the past 4 seasons. He played every snap in 14 of 17 games, including the playoffs in 2020. This stat says it all. As I mentioned earlier, Adams, not only can he get sacks and can he, blitz the quarterback and all that stuff, but he gets to the quarterback quickly, 14 quarterback hits, which led the team, tied for the team lead, and 11 tackles for loss. That's his game. And I think it's completely fair to say that, and I've said it too, Jamal Adams is more of like a hybrid, like a safety linebacker player. Like, he's more of like a linebacker type player, but he's at the safety position. A lot of guys like that. Like Marcus May, for example, would not be good at the linebacker. Like the Jets just drafted one. Like, I'm just using Marcus May as an example. Jet safety, right? I like Marcus May a lot. I think he's a really good safety. But he's the guy that doesn't get as many sacks. He gets a lot more interceptions. That's his game. He's more of a interception coverage safety. Adams is more of a blitz linebacker type breed player, but he's at the safety position because he can also play in coverage. Everyone always just talks about interceptions and interceptions and interceptions and interceptions. People, you got to get over it. He's not. His main thing is not interceptions. It's blitzing and getting to the quarterback and getting sacks and being more of like a linebacker type player. Everyone always says, oh, well, he doesn't get interceptions. So, that means anything? He's a different style player. Like I've said this about 5 times already today. Are we all gonna sit here and judge Brady? I do joke around a little bit with Brady because he can't run very well. But we all gonna sit here and when Tom Brady going for the Hall of Fame, are we all gonna sit here and say, oh, he wasn't mobile? No. Are we gonna sit here and compare his rushing numbers to Lamar Jackson? I'm not comparing Brady to Jamal Adams. I'm just saying that's an example, right? Are we gonna compare? I don't know. Are we gonna compare a really good player to a really bad? Like, there's certain things, like, are we going to compare, it's not fair to compare Xavier Howard's interceptions to Jamal Adams. Nor is it fair to compare Jamal Adams' sacks to Xavier Howard, because they're two completely different players. Jamal Adams plays with a different style, and he does get beat up for it. Like not beat up, but he does. Like, a lot of people do criticize Jamal Adams because he's not an interception type player, but that's just the way he plays the game. Everyone's got a different style, and I think it's actually pretty good, because all these people that are talking about interceptions, 90% of the league, a lot of interception type safeties. He's a different type player. We don't see them very often. And like I said, it's fair to call him more of like a linebacker at a safety position. The Jets drafted a guy, his first name's Hamza. That's what the Jets usually just call him. I believe he's out of Auburn or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but they drafted a guy later rounds, and he's actually been having a really good training camp. He's been playing with the first teamers a little bit more, and he's been a guy that, you know, his time in college, he was more of a linebacker, but the Jets are using him more of like a safety linebacker type player. He's also played safety a little bit, but they can also use him as linebacker. He's kind of like a hybrid type guy. So, like, that's kind of what Jamal Adams is, right? He's just a different type style. So, do I think he should be the highest paid safety in the league? I don't really know, because I don't know if he's the best safety in the league, but he's up there. I would say that. Alrighty, so let's get to the New York sports update here, finish up the podcast. As for yesterday in the MLB, the Rangers won, Padres won, Giants won. Giants won on a wild walk-off. Chris Bryant hit a ground ball to second. Second baseman booted it, and then threw a bad throw to first. Rushed his throw. And they won 8-7 from a walk-off. Blue Jays won, Brewers won, Dodgers won, Tigers won, the Cheaters won, Twins won, A's won, Rays won, Braves won, Cardinals won, Angels won, and Brewers won. Like I mentioned, Mets Nationals got called off due to rain, and the Yankees lost yesterday 8-4. So the Yankees moved to 62-51 on the team. Like I said, errors, and this is not a game that you can blame on a couple players. This is a team loss. I mean, there's so many different players that should be blamed for this. This is a team loss. I mean, there's a lot of this is a team loss. It is. It's a lot of errors and a lot of mistakes. This isn't on one or two guys. This isn't on a certain player or a certain guy. It's on the entire team. You can't win a game without errors, and you can't, if you can't get the hit in the big moment, you're also not going to win games. So this isn't a loss. This loss isn't on 3 or 4 players. That's not true. This loss is more so on the team. When you make 4 errors, it's an issue. It's not going to win you a game. And that was the story last night. Yankees got to bounce back quickly here today. As for today, we got the White Sox Twins. I'll give White Sox to win. Cheaters Rockies, give the Astros to win. The Cheaters. Padres Marlins, give Padres to win. We'll get to the Mets in a second. Cardinals Pirates, give Cardinals to win. Dodgers Phillies, Dodgers to win. Tigers Orioles, give Tigers to win. A's Indians, A's to win. Red Sox Rays, Rays to win. Braves Reds, give Braves to win. Cubs Brewers, the Brewers. Blue Jays Angels, I'll give Blue Jays to win. Giants Diamondbacks, I'll give Giants to win. And Mariners Rangers, I'll give Mariners to win. Okay, so Mets Nationals play 2 games today. It's going to be a game that's in progress. Right now, I believe we're in the 2nd inning. So I did predict the National. I think the Nationals are going to win. I did predict the Mets to win, but I kind of don't think they will anymore. So right now, as we stand, it's a 3-1 game in the bottom of the 2nd. So that's what's going on right now. And they will finish up that game today, and then they'll play another game. So I'm going to give National. I really can't change my answer, but I think the Nationals are going to win the 3-1 game. And I think they have a good chance of winning game 2 as well, because the Mets just can't seem to win, and the Mets just can't seem to get rolling. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do go on and get a win. But this is the second game right now as we stand. Marcus Stroman's on the mound. He's 7-11 with a 2.84 ERA. So we'll see who the other pitcher is for the Nationals and all that stuff, whatever they do. Kind of weird having a game get suspended and got to resume that in the bottom of the second. But as for the Yankees have not announced the pitcher for today's game. But this comes on today, 2:10 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find us at MLB Network and Yes Network. Yankees are 62-51. Royals are 49-63. Like I said, Royals are not, or Yankees have yet to announce a pitcher. So it's kind of a interesting thing there. I mean, I've heard Lucas Litke might be a possibility, but I'm not entirely sure. But the Royals have Brady Singer on the mound. He's 3-7 with a 5.13 ERA. Right now, the ERA stands at 9.5. I mean, I guess I'll give Yankees the win. I have no clue who's pitching, so it's kind of tough to tell. I mean, if they throw out Nick Nelson out there, Royals have a good chance. But if they throw out Lucas Litke has been good this season. He had one bad performance against Seattle. I mean, he's had a couple of performances this season where he's bad, but you can't expect perfection. I mean, all these Yankee fans asking for him to retire is just wild. The guy's been a hidden gem. And for a guy, too, who, when we picked him up, he was a spring training invite. It wasn't even like this was going to be a guy who was a guaranteed spot on the active roster. He had a good spring training, and they called him up. All right, so let's get to fantasy baseball here. I'm currently winning 115-34. Today I've got going Will Smith, Matt Olson, Marcus Semien, Austin Riley, Jake Cronenworth, Carlos Correa, Gene Segura, Whit Merrifield, Austin Meadows, Dylan Carlson, Manuel Margot, Avisail Garcia, and Luke Voigt. I've been benching Yelich. He hasn't done much. He's not doing anything. Batting .226 this season, and he got 1 point yesterday, but he's not doing anything. And I got Alek Manoah on the mound. I'm also looking to drop Nestor Cortez and try to pick up someone else. We'll see who that is, though. As for updates we've actually got updates on a couple players here. We'll go with Josh Harrison since he day-to-day. Harrison had x-rays come back negative on his right hand after being hit by a pitch during a Tuesday's win over Cleveland. Martin Gallegos of MLB.com reports. So good news there. We got an update on Bregman as well. Bregman hamstring will rejoin AAA Sugarland to continue his rehab assignment on Friday. Julia Morales of AT&T Sportsnet Southwest reports. So that's the update on him. And we got an update on Garrett Cole as well. Some positive news for Cole. Alrighty. Manager Aaron Boone said Cole, COVID-19, could rejoin the Yankees this weekend to throw a bullpen session. Brian Hoke of MLB.com reports. So, some positive news there. Good news, getting healthier little by little here. Not just the Yankees, but my fantasy team. So, that's always good. I do got to look up to pick up another starting pitcher for today. I mean, I got Alek Manoah on the mound. He's been good, but I like to get another one going. So, the team's getting hot at the right time. After this matchup in fantasy, there's only three more weeks left for fantasy. So, that should be interesting. And then fantasy football starts up. Fantasy football this year should be fun. I think fantasy football, with the Cam Akers getting injured, against the Rams, it definitely creates a lot of holes. He was one of the big-time running backs that were out there. I actually had Cam Akers having a big year for the Rams, and then he obviously tore his Achilles, and now he's done for the season. So we'll see we'll see all that stuff. But Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, McCaffrey, all those guys, great options at running back. Even though Cam Akers went down, all those guys still great options at running back for fantasy football. But either way, that's what I got for the podcast here today. That will do it. Another good podcast in the books. As always, I'll see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.